So there's 4 things that's going to change your business forever. We call it in the book the 4 pillars of a known and trusted brand. And here are the 4. Number 1.
Welcome back to Endless Customers. I'm your host, Alex Winter, and today we're joined by a keynote speaker, a partner here at Impact, and a best-selling author, Marcus Sheridan. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Here we go. Let's dive into it.
Let's do it.
We got the meat and potatoes today, so I'm excited about that.
I'm excited about this too. We're going to get into the weeds. For everyone out there listening and watching, in a previous episode, we talked about Endless Customers and how it's evolved from They Ask You Answer, the new They Ask You Answer 3.0, and the book Endless Customers. So if you don't know about that, you haven't heard about it, check out that episode. But today we are talking about the 4 pillars of a known and trusted brand. So let's get into it. Let's talk about these 4 pillars and why it's important for businesses.
Well, when I wrote Endless Customers, and we said, hey, we want to make sure that this is a system like EOS that someone can follow. So if you want something to be a system, it's got to have structure to it, right? Not just a bunch of theory, not just a bunch of recommendations thrown out there. A really clear system. Well, 4 pillars in this case of a known and trusted brand. Very clear on the surface. Like, okay, I get that pretty quickly. And, the book is rooted in principles, just like They Ask You Answer was, and I wanted to create something that is built to last. We see change happening so fast right now. There's a lot of books that are outdated in what seems like minutes. So
just because of the speed of everything.
That's right.
Yeah. So true.
So we needed these pillars to stand the test of time. At a minimum 5 years, which doesn't sound like much, but I could see a revised Endless Customers in 5 years. But I kept saying, like, to our entire team at Impact as we were working on this together, I'm like, it's gotta be good for at least 5 years. Now, nobody can say if anything's going to be good in 5 years at this point, but these pillars, because they're principle based, I believe that is absolutely the case. And so that's a preface to this conversation. I think it's important, to mention, because anytime you embrace something major as a business, you do want to know, is it built to last? And Endless Customers, this system is very much built to last. So what are the 4? And then I guess we can just go into each one individually.
Sounds good.
And I'll just let you, hit me up with whatever.
Well, and I like what you're saying too. Just to interject, fundamentally speaking, there are certain principles that will stay no matter what, that are going to be around forever. Building trust is one of those principles, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what happens to tech.
Right.
Doesn't matter what happens to AI. Doesn't matter what happens to Google.
Or what question mark, whatever is going to be coming around
or whatever
the corner.
that next thing is.
Yep.
We know platforms will come and go. We know principles will not.
Right.
So that's why we build around principles. You might build it on a platform, but you build around principles. They're your guiding light when it comes to what you should be doing with your business, certainly with sales and marketing, certainly with the buyer of today, the buyer of tomorrow. Okay, so what are the 4 pillars of a known and trusted brand?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Pillar number 1, you got to be willing to say what others in your market, in your industry, aren't willing to say, specifically online. So say what others aren't willing to say. Now, if you're familiar with They Ask You Answer, that probably sounds somewhat familiar, so we're going to get into that. Number 2, you got to be willing to show through video what others in your space aren't willing to show. Pillar 3, you need to be willing to sell in a way that others in your space aren't willing to sell. Pillar 4, you need to be more human because of everything that's happening with tech and AI than others in your space are willing to be. So it's say, show, sell, and be more human than anyone in your space. Now, before we go on and explain each one, Alex, one thing that's always interesting to me is when I'm speaking to an audience, I'll say, okay, so before we even get started, how many of you in this room can honestly say that you're talking about showing, selling, and being more human than 95% of your competitors online, and you're doing it consistently? and usually 1% or less raise their hands.
I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen you ask this question on stage in a room full of people, and you ask them to raise their hands, who's doing it, and there's not a lot of hands that go up.
You just don't really see it.
Yeah.
And so immediately this cries for being different, which in the book we call disruption. Disruption underpins these 4 pillars.
Okay.
Which is essential if you're going to become known, if you're going to be found, if you're going to be trusted. And so now I guess let's just dive into these pillars, because I know people are thinking, all right, I want examples. And so let's play it.
Let's do it. All right. So let's go into pillar 1.
Yep. So say what others aren't willing to say. This is, and again, if you've read They Ask You Answer, it's not so new, but we try in the book, we push it out even further. We still have the Big Five. The Big Five has been as relevant, it's relevant today as it was 10 years ago in terms of what people want to know. What do they want to know? They want to know how much is it cost. They want to know what are the problems, the negatives, the issues with it, objections, fears, all those things.
Right.
Like any negative phrase that they could think about that product or that service. We want to know this before we buy. Our fears take over us when we're looking at spending a lot of money. And so the great companies, they lean into those fears, those objections, and they don't allow them to come up without having addressed them already. They get in front of them.
Right.
Okay? So we've got cost or pricing questions. We've got problems / fears, objections.
Right.
Then we've got comparisons. People love to compare online. That's never going away. Okay, you love to compare. You want to know the difference between this brand, this product, that method, this method. I mean, we love to compare. Number 4, reviews. We're obsessed with reviews. Yep. The thing about reviews, though, is we want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. We don't just want the good.
Right.
And then finally, 5, best. Best, most, top. There's lots of, anytime there's an extreme of anything.
Yeah. What's the best insert? Whatever there.
Yeah, and if you think about how many times you've gone online and researched best plus another phrase.
Totally.
Or top plus another phrase. But it's not just that phrase. It's anything that denotes an extreme. So in terms of like, let's say a dishwasher, you might research the quietest dishwasher. That's an example of an extreme. It's not the best.
Right.
But it's a different type of search. It falls under that best umbrella, though.
Right.
So cost, problems, comparisons, reviews, best. Those are the Big Five.
Those are the Big Five.
They continue to dominate. They're going to dominate for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, the issue that some people have is that AI is now affecting how much you can be found in terms of search. What was so great about the Big Five, other than the fact that, customers want to know these things. When they come to your website, they're fed, they're satiated, and your trust just really just increases so much, is that, well, it was essential for increasing the traffic on your website. Now, it can still do that, but we don't want to build our house on Google alone. And so that's why we need to go beyond, because so much of the focus of They Ask You Answer was just on the Big Five. Mm-hmm. And so now we've got to say, okay, the Big Five are still there. They still matter. We're still going to pay attention. We're still going to produce text-based content, yes, but we've got to go beyond that. And when we're doing that and we're using AI, we've got to be careful, right? Because you want to make sure that it is your stories, your experiences, your voice, and not some voice of a million other voices online that were, crammed together and created by AI. One other thing about what we've seen now when it comes to AI and content production, and I said this from the beginning, and it's happened, and that is, just because a company has a tool that could produce all this content doesn't mean they will. And that's because it requires guts. It requires courage. It requires audacity to talk about, to say what others in your space aren't willing to say.
Right.
And so you being the one that teaches the industry all about pricing and value and what drives, cost up and down, and you being the one that addresses all the objections that they might feel, right? And that everybody has been saying and been thinking, but you're like not afraid of that elephant. You go after the elephant. Like, this is the stuff that just because you got the tool doesn't mean you're using it. And so we got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
It still makes you an outlier to talk about these things. But one of the issues I would say with They Ask You Answer was that some people perceive the Big Five to be just text. But the Big Five is very much text, video like YouTube, very much social media. It should be guiding your social strategy as well. I mean, across the board. So when we talk about say what others aren't willing to say, still very, very much rooted in the Big Five.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Big Five is critical. And it comes back to authenticity for me. It's like you need to be authentic in order to differentiate and disrupt. You gotta keep it
it's
real.
authenticity, it's radical transparency, it's all the things that, if you talk to any company, they say, we're rooted in authenticity. I'm like, okay, yeah, but do you talk about these things on your website? The most common questions you get from buyers all the time. They're like, well, you don't understand. No, I do understand. What I understand is you're trying to control the buying process, and that's not what the buyer wants.
Right.
And so don't sit here and claim to be incredibly authentic and transparent and honest, and yet you're not even willing to just generally discuss pricing in your industry. I'm not saying that you got to give exact price. Again, we've never said that before, but you got to be willing to talk about it and teach them what defines value and give them a sense for things and help them know, am I in the game or not? Like, these are things that we should be doing, and many companies today still are not. To me, that's inexcusable. It just shouldn't happen, Alex, but it's still happening. So that's the first pillar.
Right. Well, and it's also a red flag for consumers. Like, if I see that, I'm not going to make a purchasing decision with that company. I'm going to go to a company or a different website or a different place that is going to give me the answers that I need, the transparency that I want. That's just how it is, and I think that's how a lot of consumers buy and operate when they're looking for things. So that's just a fact.
That's a fact.
And so
you can use the facts to your advantage and the trends to your advantage, or you can deny their existence. I just have found it doesn't really help to deny reality. And so if you lean into it, it can become an advantage. Even if it feels like a disadvantage, it can become an advantage.
Nice. So let's get into the second pillar.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. I'm loving this.
So show what others aren't willing to show.
Okay.
If you think about it, okay, we have got to stop thinking we have a secret sauce when we don't. You need to say, I have to show the thing, whatever the thing is. Now, we talk specifically in the book about what's called the Selling Seven, and these are 7 types of videos that drive the best results in terms of sales team and humanizes your brand and helps you so very much. And, there's a couple that we can talk about. One of them is cost videos, okay? Very powerful. But the thing about a cost video, a lot of times people think videos should be short. Videos shouldn't always be short because there are times when they merit longer explanations.
Right.
If you've got a product or service that is complex when it comes to pricing, which is most business, by the way, it doesn't make you unique. That makes you normal. If you're going to create a video on that's explaining what drives cost up, what drives cost down, why some companies are expensive, why some companies are cheap, roughly where do you fall? All right, those 5 fundamental things there. Well, that is going to take you 5-10 minutes at least. And what I did this time with Endless Customers, this book, is I talked even further beyond those 5 things. Like, what else could you talk about when it comes to cost and price? For example, can you talk about financing and payments and how people can manage that? Can you talk about long-term cost versus short-term investment, like in the difference between the two?
Yeah.
So there's all these components that make up the perfect cost piece of content, right? Whether it's article, whether it's a video, etc. So that is one major video that every company should have, should be on your socials, should be on YouTube, and it should go into the detail that the book talks about. And I'm really proud of that section of the book because it is a step up from what I taught people discussing cost was before, and it really gives that further detail that today's buyer, hungry buyer wants, right? Yeah. So that's just one example of showing what others aren't willing to show.
I love the examples that you put in the book, though, because we hear it time and time again when we say cost and price, and you have to discuss cost and price. people like cringe. People don't want to talk about it. They want to, and they say we're different, and they give all the excuses and the reasons and this and that. And the truth is, no matter what your excuse is, your customers want it. They need it. So
that's right.
It doesn't matter what your opinion is. You have to give the people what they want. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Another example, I'm pretty sure it's in the book, is when we started manufacturing fiberglass pools with my swimming pool company. Mm-hmm. We were the first manufacturer that showed the entire manufacturing process. In fact, we created a series of, I think it was 8 videos. Average length was about 10 minutes long. So it's like 80 minutes of video just showing you how we made our pools. Yeah. Which somebody listening to this might say, that is just way too much. Nobody's got the patience for that today, or the attention span for that today. It's total BS. Yeah. Because if you're getting ready to spend $100,000, $200,000, whatever, on a swimming pool, you better believe that you're willing to watch 80 minutes worth of video. And what we saw as a result of those videos is that we kept having people reach out and say, you were the only manufacturer that was willing to show us how you made the thing. And so that created such demand in the marketplace. It was very different. There was a huge disruption to the industry. Other manufacturers were complaining to me like, I can't believe you're showing this. And I'm thinking, you're dumb for not showing it. It was obvious to me. But still, do you think most manufacturers in the fiberglass pool space have shown specifically how they manufacture their pool? Most haven't, because they still believe it's secret sauce. Ridiculous. We know it's Thousand Island dressing, right? So it's like you move past that and you say, it is what it is. I'm going to show it to you. And so the secret becomes the fact that you're showing it. That makes you so unique. That makes you, as Seth Godin said back in the day, a purple cow in the field. That's right. That immediately, gets noticed because it's so very, very different. Yeah. So that is show. And there's so many other examples, of course, in the book. But, you have to think like a media company. And a media company has a mindset, and we talk about this in the book, of every single thing you do in business potentially is a story that you could show. The big mindset shift is not just passing it by, but it's actually showing it. Perfect case in point. Today, we were creating videos.
Yeah. I
know every single day I'm going to share something online, especially like for me, it's LinkedIn. And by the way, if you're not like connected with me on LinkedIn, you should be. And so just let me know. Like, go to LinkedIn, say, hey, Marcus, I wasn't connected with you before. I've repented of my sins, and now let's connect. Because I understand that I'm essentially a media company that speaks to organizations, teaches organizations around the world how to connect deeper, win trust, and create endless customers. Okay, that's what I do.
Right.
Now, if I'm a media company, I'm always like looking left and right, up and down for the next opportunity. So today, when we were shooting video, of course, I'm like, hey, can you record what we're doing, show what they see on camera, but show what the scene looks like, right? Because this is what the market is interested in.
Yeah, like the behind the scenes.
It's behind the scenes,
the lights,
the story.
The set, the whole, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Problem is, a lot of people, Alex, would do a shoot. They would get the shoot done and say, oh, that was great. We did our videos. But you missed a great story.
Yeah.
So a media company sees the story in everything. People ask me all the time, it's like, how do you come up with like great content on LinkedIn all the time? Because I'm a media company, and I'm always looking. I'm a reporter, man. I'm looking for my next story. That's how you got to think.
That's a great analogy. I love that.
So, pillar number 2, show what others aren't willing to show.
Pillar number 3.
Pillar number 3, I'm very excited about because I feel like I do a better deep dive in this book on this subject, which is sell in a way that others aren't willing to sell. Now, the primary element that makes this so different is the evolution of self-service. And I talked about self-service in They Ask You Answer 2nd edition, but it has really taken a step up since then. And specifically, we talk about 5 different forms of self-service on your website. So we've got self-pricing tools like estimators, calculators. We've got self-assessment tools, which give you a score. We've got self-selection tools, which allow you to make a choice. We've got self-configuration tools, which allow you to build the thing that you're looking to buy.
Right.
And then you've got self-scheduling tools, which allows you to schedule time with a salesperson. In the book, we talk about the power of these tools. 75% of all buyers today say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience.
Yeah, a touchless experience,
yeah.
right. Mm-hmm.
That number's growing. So if this number keeps on growing, what does it mean in terms of sales and marketing? It means we have a mega trend. We better lean into it, not resist it, not fight it, not say, oh, gee, but if we do these tools online and on our website, then that will affect our sales process and our sales team doesn't want us to do that. Well, the only reason they say, I don't want you to do that is because they're ignorant of the benefits. If they understood the benefits, they'd be like, please.
Sign me up. Yep.
I mean, we've had now at Impact a bunch of companies that we've built some of these pricing calculators, pricing estimators for. Mm-hmm. And it is blown up the number of leads they've gotten. And the sales team is like, this is the greatest. We love this. But, if you had just said before that, hey, we're going to put a pricing estimator on the website, they'd be like, whoa, don't do that because that's going to mess us up. You see, the only reason why they're saying that is out of ignorance. And so, this is why we have to go into organizations and teach them the what, the how, and the why. And then they're like, oh, okay, sure, we should do that.
Right.
So self-service, mega trend, taking over industries. I'm very excited about it. I'm all in on it. And of course, I even created a tool that allows people to build pricing estimators literally in minutes called priceguide.ai, which is taking off, right? And so we talk about that in the book, but this is a megatrend for selling in a way that others aren't willing to sell. We've got some other components in that section of the book as well, in terms of, if you look at They Ask You Answer, we talked about assignment selling. So now we've got assignment selling on steroids. Before, assignment selling was pretty generic. It was, essentially how to give an assignment one time. Now what we do is we help write out their entire sales process that they might have, all the phases or stages of their sales process, and how to integrate effective content for your assignment selling, right, in each one of those stages. So we show it much better, we explain it much better, and it will help you see, okay, so although you might have been, quote, doing assignment selling before and integrating content into the sales process so as to eliminate some of those redundant questions, now the mindset is, before every single stage of the sales process, what content could I send them that could help make this more efficient, more effective, more speedy, more comfortable, more trust, all those things.
Right, all the things.
All those things. So we talk about that. And I do touch a little bit on just some of the issues with sales training too, and how, it's just a lost art. We just don't have enough sales training today. Companies have to get over themselves. They've got to do a lot more sales training. It's a big problem.
It is.
It's got to be fixed.
We've talked about this a lot on the show and off the show as well, where people think that they're the cat's meow. They have it dialed in, and they don't need any extra help, and it couldn't be farther from the truth. Yeah,
they're a broken pencil without lead, and they have no idea. Like they're literally thinking they're creating like masterpieces, when in reality the canvas is blank. We see that a lot, and it's a big problem. So that's the third pillar: sell in a way others aren't willing to sell. And man, that is really, when you talk about lead generation, self-service, it addresses, one of the big promises is this book's going to help you address that big problem of I'm not getting enough leads, enough qualified leads. Sales cycles are too long. Right. My goodness, it's going to help address that problem.
And shortening those sales cycles. Yeah. And the coolest part is it's a win-win for both sides. It's a win-win for your customers, but it's also a win for your sales team too. It benefits everybody. So
everybody wins. It's great.
We love that.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So that's number three.
Number three.
Pillar. Number four pillar.
Pillar number 4
is be more human than others in your space are willing to be.
Okay.
Now, this one, it's a bit of a culmination of the other three, because if you're showing what others aren't willing to show and you're doing it with your people, that's a major part of it. But, look at it like this. If you're doing one-to-one video in your sales approach, which still today, most sales teams are sending text-based email. like as a standard.
Still?
Most, like 90-ish%, Alex.
Do they still send like mail in the PO box?
Yeah, right. That's what it feels like at this point.
Oh man.
And it's so contrary to common sense.
Yeah.
Because we say, I want to make human connections, but we only send letters. We don't send images and we don't send videos. It's nonsensical, right? Yeah. We say people misunderstood the email. Okay, well, that's what text does. Maybe you should send a video. Video's faster. If it's a longish email, you can send a video way faster, right? Faster. If you're really answering a question that requires some explanation.
And you catch the tone. That's the best part about videos. What can be misconstrued in a text or in a piece of copy, you might misread it or misinterpret it. But if you can hear somebody say it, you get it immediately.
So that's one piece of the be more human. The other side of this is, it's not just your sales team. You as a CEO have to step up. You need to say, my personal brand matters. Which is bigger in terms of brand, Elon or Tesla? Elon.
Without a doubt.
Way bigger.
Without a doubt. Yep.
And so you see this across the board where we want to do business with Colonel Sanders. And so if you don't have a Colonel Sanders, what are you? You're a roof, otherwise known as Pizza Hut, right? That's not good. And so you need a face with your organization, and CEOs, leaders need to develop their brands. Especially if you're going to say, we're a media company and I want my team to be embracing video.
Right.
If you're not eating that, come on. You got to eat your own dog food. So that's going to be a big part of this going forward is leaders need to build their brands and humanize the company brand in the process. So we talk about that. We didn't talk about that in They Ask You Answer. We lean into that quite a bit more. So those are the 4 pillars of a known and trusted brand. And what's great is there's a lot of examples in the book, right? And so we really explain it out to you. And the other thing too is we've got a companion guide that's not in the book, but it's online that it shows you a ton more examples of each one of these things. And so, if you read the book and then you follow the companion guide, you'll be like, man, I see this. Right. It's not like I'm just like, where do I start? How do I do this? You're going to see it. You're going to see a ton of examples. You're going to be able to start it today. That's why it's a system. That's why it's like EOS, except it's for sales and marketing. If you're doing EOS, this is the book for you. You're going to love it. You're going to love it because it's really designed the same way.
They go hand in hand. I love how well they integrate with each other because EOS is really like getting your company, your goals, your structure, all that set correctly so that you have everything in place there. And then this is the next step of like, cool, now that you got that built, it's time to lean into your sales and your marketing, do it the right way and work a system time and time again, the proof is in the pudding. We have the stories. You have to go check it out, people, because when business owners and businesses work this system, the results are exponential. Some of them I almost can't even believe the results. Yeah, it's shocking. It really is.
It's crazy. Yeah. And what I'm excited about with Endless Customers is the way we've set up the journey. You can get immediate results, especially because of this self-service phenomena. So, if you're hurting right now, this system will help you immediately, and it's going to help you long-term. You want to go into it with a long-term mentality, but it can help you immediately to resolve some of the issues that your business is having with lead flow. That to me is very, very exciting.
Excellent. I'm excited too. And so for people out there listening, where can they get this book? How do they get the system? How do they get their hands on it? What's the next step for them to take?
Yeah, just go to endlesscustomers.com. And if you pre-order the book, you get some bonuses, which is pretty cool. So you want to take advantage of that. So again, it's endlesscustomers.com.
Marcus, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing these insights.
My pleasure. Exciting times.
Exciting times, my friend. All right. And for everybody out there watching and listening, this is Endless Customers. Catch you on the next episode.